All right. Hello, everyone, and happy. I can't keep track of what day it is. Monday. Nick here with Jayhawk to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We have a very big slate tonight. I think both sites did a good thing in cutting off the late games, but I think we're still dealing with 11 games on each site, so a lot to get through. We have a ton of news coming in. Jayhawk, what's your first take on this slate? Then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, man, seems like a really fun slate here. Christmas Eve got a nice little NBA slate here. So, really excited to break this down per usual.
Hell yeah, man. And shouts out, we got Heath in here early, Savage, and Brian. I'll shut you guys out early because we're going to have to rip through stuff today. Not going to be a ton of time for pleasantries, but Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year to everyone, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. But let's get right into this one, man. So, first game on the board, and I said we wouldn't go game by game, but I'm just so programmed to do it. I think we just will, but go quickly. So, we have Boston and Orlando. So, for Boston, nothing significant. Sam Hauser is back. I've been playing a lot of Pritchard with him out, but with Pritchard back, probably won't get there much. I mean, with Hauser back, excuse me. Then Orlando, Steno Banchero, both Wagners are out. But they are getting Suggs back tonight, so we don't have to deal with that backcourt. Is there anything in this game standing out to you? And I'll let you talk about both teams at the same time. For me, I don't mind getting to a little bit of a low on Tatum. Obviously, he is upside, but at the same time, with this team healthy against a team like Orlando, I can't really call him a priority. Goga's getting a lot of love over on FanDuel, where he's power forward eligible. I don't mind it, but same price as Portis, kind of tough to get to there. And then Jalen Suggs, I'm fine mixing in, but obviously not a good matchup against the Celtics. But what's your overall take on this game? Anything you see yourself kind of honing in on, I guess?
Yeah, so not too much from this game. Obviously, Suggs is projected to be pretty chalky, or not super chalky, but about 15%. I think he's fine. I don't love the spot here for Suggs overall against Boston. And then Goga's, I just don't love the spot here either. So from the Orlando side, it probably would just be Suggs or nobody here for me. And then on the Boston side, typically I have like a lean here on the studs, but I don't like the spot for any of them. So probably just a stay away game outside of Suggs for me.
Yeah, like if you're playing 150, I could see mixing in some of the starters for Boston. But again, this is one of the lower totals. There's a lot of widespread games on this slate. This one has 10.5 point spread, but this is actually not one of the wider ones. So Orlando missing some key players. They've still been pretty competitive, but again, not the best environment for fantasy. Moving right along into the next game here, we have the Rockets and the Hornets. So starting with Houston, no Tari Eason. This has created a few more minutes for the likes of Jabari Smith. Dylan Brooks playing maybe the best basketball of his career in terms of fantasy, which is insane to say. I know we never get excited about him. He's been really good lately, though. Then over on the Charlotte side, no Brandon Miller, no Trey Mann. LaMelo Ball is in. Nick Smith is back in that front court. But yeah, I mean, what do you like here, man? This game seems to be pretty appealing on both sides.
Yeah, I think this game is super appealing on both sides of the ball here. This is kind of a broken record, but Brandon Miller's out tonight, and we were kind of talking pre-stream. I think Lamelo Ball, he's going to choke the whole entire game. He's too cheap. 9,800. I think he's severely underowned. So love him at 12%. And then for the rest of Charlotte, didn't have too much interest in anyone. Maybe our model likes Mark Williams, I believe. So you can maybe take a stab there. But other than that, don't love too much from Charlotte. And then I wanted to hear your take, but I think Alperen Sengun looks very sneaky as well. I kind of like the mini stack with Lamelo and Sengun. But yeah, I love Sengun. And then Green, Van Vliet, Brooks, you mentioned. I think all those guys are fine to mix into. So yeah, I love this game in tournaments. How about you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, I was looking into the matchup for Lamelo. He's probably going to see a lot of Dylan Brooks tonight. Not that that's a guy who's shutting people down necessarily, but he can be annoying. But yeah, Lamelo went off the last time these teams played to the likes of 60 plus fantasy points, so I'm really not afraid to play him here. I agree. I think he's under owned. Sengun is one of my favorite center plays at 8,900 on both sites. Pretty easy to get to with all the value we have everywhere. One play I do want to bring up is just Jabari Smith. His minutes have been more consistent with Eason out. Playing 34 plus per night is good for him. He hasn't been producing at a super high level, but definitely someone I see getting into a lot of my builds. And you mentioned the likes of Green, Van Fleet, etc. I think they're fine. The one guy in the Hornets, other than Ball, that I'm getting to is Miles Bridges. His minutes have been kind of inconsistent, but I think with Miller out at 6,800, if Houston and MA decide they really want to key in on LaMelo, maybe Bridges has a night. because he's going to be open. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I love LaMelo, especially at the ownership. Sengun looks good mixing in some of these other guys. But Jabari Smith, for me, definitely another play I think I'm going to get to a lot of. Um, but yeah, let's keep plugging, dude. We get the Spurs and the 76ers here. Over on the San Antonio side, no significant injury news. They're as healthy as they've been all season. On the 76ers side, Embiid is available. Yeah, I was wrong last slate. I didn't play Embiid, and I said, hey, if it kills me, it kills me, and it did. Maxi's probable. I think that's it as far as rotational players. I mean, Eric Gordon's out, nothing too significant. But yeah, man, first, what's your take on Embiid here? Obviously, an interesting matchup against Wemby. Spurs are pretty healthy. I think Wemby's really the only guy I'm getting to over there. I mean, Vassell's getting a lot of love now that he's starting, but there's other plays in that range I prefer. But yeah, take on this game, man, and I guess start off with your Embiid take because it is pretty interesting. He is underpriced over on DK at 9,600.
Yeah, so you pretty much covered it. Not necessarily the best matchup here for Embiid, but I think the way he plays should favor him in the spot. Typically, he likes to shoot like in the mid range if he can. So I kind of like Embiid. You mentioned it; he's underpriced, 9,600. I think I probably want to get to one of Embiid or Sengun if I can at center. We'll mention Bam as well, but yeah, I love Embiid here in tournaments. Just too cheap. So that's my take on Embiid, and then on the Spurs side here, I think Vassal's fine. You mentioned it. Once he's starting, he looks a lot better. So I think he's fine. But yeah, don't love any Spur. I guess you could mix in Wemby, but I just much prefer Embiid point per dollar on DraftKings, I think.
Yeah, this is a tough spot for Wemby. I mean, as a rookie, I obviously he has the talent. He's still kind of developing, but Embiid, tough matchup. Shouts out Power, who's always in here. Embiid's gonna drop another 70 on Wemby. I mean, if he does, definitely someone you want on in your lineups. And I will say on FanDuel, a little bit more expensive, but 4% feels too low for him. I know you could get Wemby in a power forward, but you're paying a premium for that. I don't mind mixing him in, but Embiid probably my favorite play from this game on both sites. I don't see myself getting to much else just because again, these teams are healthier than they have been lately, which kind of leaves guys overpriced. All right, making great pace today. Let's see, we got the Jazz and the Cavs. So a lot of guys out for Utah tonight. This is one of the games with those ridiculous spread, though. Let me pull this up real quick because I definitely think it's notable. 14 points. We're looking at same spread as the Monday Night Football game, I think, which isn't a good sign. John Collins is out. Keontae George is still out. This is technically a revenge game, I guess, for Sexton and Clarkson, too. He played for Cleveland. But at the same time, I mean, just a bad matchup. I think these guys look pretty good in terms of point per dollar, just starting with the Utah side, obviously. But really, really tough spot. I mean, Laurie, 6,700 on DK. I could see getting there. Sexton coming off one of his best games of the season, fine. But again, on such a big slate where there's more favorable fantasy environments, it's tough for me to get here, even though there is some increased opportunity for a lot of these guys with key players in Collins and Keontae George out of the lineup. I'm going to split this one up because I don't know that there's a ton on Cleveland we're going to like, but what are you looking at for Utah? I mean, are you getting to Laurie? I mean, in another matchup, I think he'd be one of the best plays on the slate.
Yeah, so with Lori, the kind of only intrigue I had here was the price at 6,700. It is enticing for sure, but you mentioned it. Even with these guys out, like just not a great spot here for Utah. Obviously, they're big dogs here, 15-point dogs, and yeah, I think Lori's fine for the price. I just don't love him as a play. And then Kessler, I just think he's in a tough spot too. I think my favorite plays here would be the guards and the cheap guys. So Clarkson, Sexton, and then the model loves Svi Mikhailuk. I wanted to hear your take on him. He could potentially get blowout run too. So yeah, what's your kind of take here with the guards and Mikhailuk?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of been anti-Svi. I mean, he's super scoring dependent. He can get hot. He can hit threes, and then you're going to want him at that price for sure. I think it's like a last piece in. If you're playing a bunch of lineups, he's fine. But like if I'm playing single entry, which is what I'm mostly doing tonight, honestly, I have two on DK. I think 10 lineups over on FanDuel. I have Svi and none. It's just tough for me to get to a play like that on a slate like this where we have all the Bucks value. We have value at a few other spots. Miami, we're going to bring some up in a minute. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think Svi's fine, but even when he's starting, he's only playing 20 minutes. He's not a guy you usually want closing because he's kind of useless on defense. So yeah, it would probably take this game being close. And as far as blowout run goes, I think they'd rather give those minutes to maybe someone like Collier, Juzang. Like, I don't know, they kind of know what they have with Svi. But yeah, I mean, mid price, you're getting a starter. It's not insane. And the model likes him, so I don't want to fight too hard against it because the model's right probably more than it's wrong. But yeah, for me, I don't know that I can get to him. I'd rather play Sexton or Clarkson, but even then, just the game environment's scaring me off. But are you getting to Svi?
So I saw he was high on the model. I was initially going to get to any. Maybe you could take a stab. If yeah, you mentioned if I'm playing single entry, no way I'm playing Svi in this matchup. So yeah, he would just be a 150 play for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. And again, I mean, when you get a starter that cheap that actually shoots the ball, like there is some appeal. Like Micah Parter's probably starting here as well, but he does nothing, and he's only going to play limited minutes. Probably terrible matchup for him. I'd rather play Svi than Potter, but probably don't get to either. Moving into the Cleveland side, I mean, Dean Wade's questionable, Merrill's questionable. Again, some blowout risk here, good upside, but at the same time, they're healthier than they've been lately. I'm not getting to any Cleveland. I don't think it's crazy to play Mitchell, Mobley, or even Garland at their prices, but I don't know, man. Just a tough spot for me. Again, I think there's better games on the slate. These guys have upside, but they're healthy. So they're all a little bit overpriced, maybe with the exception of Mitchell.
Yep, pretty much the same page. Like I think if I was getting to one, probably would be Mobley here. 7,600, pretty good spot, but yeah, 15-point spread. I don't know, man. It's tough to get to these guys. I mean, I think you can mix them in, but tough to say any of them are like priorities, I guess, for me.
Yeah, I mean there's one guy I'll bring up and I might regret it, but Ty Jerome, he's kind of the hybrid for this team in that he plays when the game's close and then he gets extra run if the game gets out of hand. Maybe he's someone you could use as a punt. Honestly, I'd rather play him than Svi personally. But again, there's nothing here I'm really rushing to. I just like to look for those hybrid players. Like Pritchard used to be that. He still kind of is for Boston. But when you get these good teams and they're playing bad teams, if you could find those guys, sometimes they really can help you climb the leaderboard. And no one really wants to play them. So for me, that's Ty Jerome, especially if Merrill's out. But again, nothing I'm prioritizing. He's 0% owned, and it's really just a DK play. 4,800 on FanDuel. I think we could probably do better. Um, all right, take a quick look at chat here. Again, guys, we got a lot to get through today. Would love to get to every single comment if we can. Can't guarantee it. Kadiri saying what's up. We already talked to Power briefly. Unicorn, good evening. Money time. Giddy. We'll talk about Chicago in a bit. I'm not really loving it necessarily. Utah's going to get smacked up. Cleveland's blowing people out of the water. I tend to agree, Power. Shouts out Kenny Atkinson. My pick for Coach of the Year. Nets should have never let him go. Drew Smith or Dylan Brooks? That's a damn good question. I like both of them tonight. I guess it depends what you're doing with the extra salary, but I'll give that one to you, J Hawk. Drew Smith or Dylan Brooks? Who do you like more?
Well, I will say if this was like 3 days ago when Drew Smith wasn't starting, I would have said Dylan Brooks. But with Jimmy Butler out and Drew Smith likely starting, I'm going to say Drew Smith here.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. We loved Jaime Jaquez all last season, but Drew's really leapfrogged him on that depth chart. So whenever you get someone out for Miami, it's Drew now, not Jaime. That's really been taking those minutes and the extra usage. Next, we have my Nets taking on the Miami Heat. Nice little segue there. Jimmy Butler is out for Miami. Other than that, no real injury news. Rozier's back. On the net side, Finney Smith is out. Cam Thomas is out. Obviously, they traded away Schroeder. That's old news at this point. Zaire Williams is out. Dariq Whitehead said, I want to stay down with the G League, so I got more minutes. So he's no longer with the team, which is kind of hilarious. Traded Wofford out here as well. I'll start with my Nets, man. This is kind of a tricky spot. I actually think this game could be competitive. It is a 10-point spread, but Jordy Fernandez has them playing close in most games. And with Jimmy out, I think they could hang here. Simmons is a good play. And I hate to say it out loud. I know everyone here watching hates Ben Simmons, but he's been producing at a pretty high level as the point guard. And he's going to have to continue to kind of run this offense now that Schroeder's gone and Cam Thomas is still out. So yeah, is he going to be capped around 30 minutes? Yes. Will he even get to 30 minutes? I can't guarantee it, but he does so much when he is on the floor. I don't mind it. I'm going to get to some Ben Simmons here. I think if Noah Clowney starts, you could use him as a value play. There's better value in that range, but if you're a 150 max player, I do think he's someone you could mix in. Um, but yeah, not much ownership going to anything else. I mean, Cam Johnson is going to dominate the usage on this team. Son Simmons, but at the same time, His price is way up now. Like he's pushing 7,500 on both sites. That's just tough for me to get excited about. He's flashed the ceiling. Don't think I get there tonight. It's really just Simmons for me here. But anything on the Nets you're interested in?
Yeah, so that you pretty much nailed it. Like Simmons was probably the main guy I was looking to. He was a really good play last night, like them in GPPs. I think he's found once again, 5,900, not a huge price bump. And then Cam Johnson, I kind of wanted to hear your take, but when he's sub 7K or mid 7Ks, I don't love him in terms of upside, but
Yeah.
I guess you could mix him in 7%, 13%. But yeah, you mentioned I do like Simmons a lot here in tournaments.
Yeah, the thing with Johnson, I mean, he does more than just shoot, but he's very reliant on his threes falling to hit that ceiling. I mean, we saw it against Toronto. He went for 61 on DK, 58 on FanDuel. Let me pull up the 3 point numbers here quickly if I could find them. 10 threes he attempted, only made four, but he was doing everything that night. Had another massive game against Indiana. He's capable of the ceiling. It's just at this price, it's tough for me to get excited about. Earlier in the year, he was around 6K, 6,500. I feel much better about him when he's down there. But I don't know. If it was a smaller slate, I'd maybe have some interest. But there's so much to like tonight across all these games. I just don't think that I'm going to get there necessarily. Um, yeah, I think that's it for them. A lot to talk about on Miami though with Butler out, right? So
Yeah.
um, good matchup, obviously, against the Nets. Hero price hasn't really come up. I mean, he's drawing ownership, maybe not as much as he should. Once I refreshed the model, that Butler news came out right before we went live. I imagine it goes up a little bit. I like him a lot here. He was in my dummy build before the Butler news. Now that Butler's out, I pretty much have him locked into that spot. Bam's been good. Haven't really seen the ceiling out of him lately. I think he could get to it here. But yeah, we're probably going to see Drew Smith starting. Jovic is back. He's probably going to start here as well. I think the piece of value I trust the most for the Heat is Drew Smith. Terry Rozier coming off the bench has some upside. Don't mind mixing him in. Um, but yeah, that's really it. Like I like Bam. I really, really like Hero. I don't mind Drew Smith. Probably won't get to Jovic, but I do think Terry is worth mentioning, especially at 0% ownership on DK. Where are you at, or where are you at? I guess for Miami right now, pretty decent spot, but a pretty low total, just 213 points.
Yeah, so you covered, I think, all these guys from Miami, or not all of them, but three in particular, Hero, Drew Smith, and Bam, all look super good here. Just a pretty good spot here against Brooklyn. And I think they're all still too cheap. Hero, still below 8K. I think his ceiling is huge here. So love Tyler. Um, and then Drew Smith, I think, is too cheap as well, 4,200. I know we have a lot of good guards today. LaMelo, Drew Smith, Ryan Rollins, bunch of good guys, but I think Drew Smith should be up there now. And then Bam Adebayo, I just think sub 8K with no Jimmy, I think he's just too cheap. So like mixing in Bam as well in tournaments. So yeah, I think Miami looks great here.
Yeah, man, it's true. I mean, Bam has been taking threes and not making them. Like that's why we haven't really seen the upside. But with Jimmy out, I do think he's capable. And against this Nets front court, I mean, they're okay defensively, but um, yeah, not a spot I'm necessarily afraid of playing their opponents. But again, I do want to bring up Terry as kind of a low home pivot. I do think he's pretty interesting. A lot of guards, like you mentioned, to like on today's slate, though. Let's move to the next game, and I will check out chat. We got Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Atlanta Hawks. No significant news on the Minnesota side other than maybe that Anthony Edwards just got fined. That team seems to be crumbling in the locker room. Edwards is pissed off. Is what it is at this point. But over on the Atlanta side, Bogdanovich is questionable. Okongwu's out. I think that's significant. Trey's listed as questionable. Don't know if he went through shoot around. Obviously, if he's out, that would create a lot of opportunity for some of these other guys. But as things stand, man, I mean, Minnesota's fine. I don't mind getting to a little bit of Edwards, a little bit of Randall. That's pretty much it for me. Conley's cheap. Really hasn't been playing that well, though, so I'm not all that interested. I did see he was drawing some ownership earlier. If Trey's out, Dyson Daniels is going to look really good. I want to say when Trey is out, if Bogdanovich is in, he hasn't been seeing the boost I think the field is expecting him to, whether he starts or comes off the bench. I proceed with caution on him. It's actually DeAndre Hunter who is seeing the biggest boost. So go to Hunter if we get Trey out. I think Trey plays tonight, not necessarily a guarantee. And then the front court's really interesting as well with Okongwu out. Capella, we were kind of rushing to get to him those first games with no Okongwu, but he's been pretty mediocre. The minutes haven't really come up. Nance has kind of taken on a lot of that role. And on DK at 4,500, I'm actually mixing him in a little bit. Again, I'm only playing a handful of lineups. He might make the crack for me tonight. I do kind of like him here as a low loan play with upside, but Yeah, man, it's tricky. I think until we have the trade news, it's kind of tough to kind of parse through Atlanta. But do you know if you went through shoot around? Do you have a lean on that? And I guess what's your take on this game overall?
Yeah, so you mentioned I think Trey going through showdown here probably leads to him playing. Since he said it last game too, I think he probably plays here, especially against Minnesota, right? Like they've been
Mhm.
really bad. I bet Trey just plays here. Um, and then yeah, for the rest of Atlanta, I like the Larry Nance shout. 4,500. He's just been really good for them. He does seem a little bit too cheap still, even in a tougher spot here. So like that shout there with Nance. And then I think they'll probably need Capella's size up there as well. So I think I prefer Nance to Capella, but both are in play as like low on shots, I think.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And there's some interesting ownership here on the Minnesota side. I mean, McDaniels is super, super popular. Um, I don't mind it. He's been playing better lately. We talked about earlier in the season how he was going to be used for spacing more. He is shooting the ball more. But at the same time, not really a guy you could necessarily rely on as chalk. And I'm like the biggest Nas Reed fan there is. I've been pumping this guy's like stock as much as I could since he wasn't drafted. But on a night like tonight, I'm kind of confused why he's 15% on DK and 13 on FanDuel. I think he's a fine play, but definitely someone who's overowned in my opinion. But yeah, how are you handling McDaniels and Reed? And I think DiVincenzo was pretty popular. That's come down a little bit as well, but yeah, man. I know it's a good matchup. DiVincenzo actually has been shooting the ball really well. I think of those three, I'm most interested in him. But tough for me to wrap my head around the McDaniels and the Nas Reed ownership right now.
Yeah, man. Pretty much, align with you there. I think both of them are fine. McDaniels and Reed, like I think those guys were probably better plays before some of this value. But the guys we have now, so I think they're still fine to mix in McDaniels, Reed. I don't think either of them are like core plays for me, but it is a good spot. You mentioned Atlanta, very bad defensive team, so don't hate mixing them in, but I do think we probably have a little bit safer value now.
Yeah, and the model really does like McDaniels, so maybe get to him. But at the same
Yeah,
time, I think Reed kind of down the list behind Capella, behind Conley in terms of value. So maybe that's where you get different. But again, as more value opens up, these guys become a little bit less appealing. I think the field's going to agree with that as well. So maybe this ownership comes down. Let's take a quick look at chat here. Again, we're making pretty good time. Um, Drew Smith or Dylan Brooks, picking up right where we left off. So Maxi's in. Sengun and Ben Simmons or Simons and Brunson. I think that's Sengun and Simmons for me.
Sengun,
That's what I-
Simmons, or Simons and Brunson. I'd go Sengun and Simmons, yeah, for sure. I love
And
Sengun.
is Simons on the main slate? Um, no. Or
No,
wait, yeah, he is. My bad. Yeah.
is
I
he?
take that back. That's the late game on the main. So misspoke there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just like Sengun's upside. I think Simmons' floor is probably just as solid as Simons at this point. Trade did go through shoot around. You mentioned that as well. So yeah, let's keep plugging away. We get Toronto and the New York Knicks. This is another game with a pretty wide spread. Let me check it out here. 13 and a half points last I checked. Haven't refreshed that page in a while, but I doubt it's moved much. But over on the Toronto side, still waiting on RJ Barrett news, dealing with an illness right now. No Bruce Brown, no Jakob Podol, no Emmanuel Quickly. So they've gotten a little bit healthier. With Barrett out, we have seen um, I don't know, guys like Grady Dick become a little bit more appealing. All their value went off yesterday, right? It was Jacoby Walter and Jamal Sheed who had really solid games. In the front court, Mogbo's been starting, kind of limited in his minutes. Kelly Olynyk, it seems like his minutes are finally coming up. Really tough to read this front court because I do think there is value to be had here. It's just, I don't know, tough to project these minutes right now until we see Kelly getting consistent run. Not the best matchup either. Before I move over to the Knicks, how are you handling Toronto tonight? Do you have any kind of lean on RJ? I don't know that he's going to play. I kind of want to assume he's going to be out, but at the same time, I think either way, it's going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, so I think RJ probably sits here. Don't have like a great hunch on that, but I think he probably sits. And then I don't know, man. Scotty shot awful last game. Like I think he was like something like 1 for 9 or something crazy. But yeah, I mean these guys all are fine. I just I don't know, man. I don't love any of these guys in like great plays. So maybe Scotty in like a bounce back game, but I don't love it.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And I mean, if RJ is out and we do see Walter starting again, I guess he's okay as value. I will say, kind of similar to the Ty Jerome shout earlier. Jamal Sheed, if Barrett is out, might be that kind of hybrid player in that he's going to be in the rotation, but even if the game blows out, he should be involved as well. Davion Mitchell was available yesterday but didn't play though, so proceed with caution on Sheed and Walter because if Mitchell gets back in the rotation, um, and I think he should, then those guys are probably the first to lose minutes. So I don't know. It's tough to really pump anything from Toronto. Over on the Knicks side, I think they're pretty healthy. Hart missed a game, but he's back. Let me just double check. Yeah, just a bunch of G leaguers on their injury report tonight, along with Mitchell Robinson, who's out for the year. But anything on the Knicks side you're getting to, again, I think they're pretty appealing. Tibbs loves to give these guys minutes. I don't mind getting the Cat. I think his upside's great here, especially with no Podolin. Pretty soft matchup for him. But yeah, some blowout risk, but I don't know that Tibbs necessarily cares that much.
Yeah, I think New York looks way better here. Starting out with Cats, I think we both kind of mentioned. I think he's probably my favorite play here.
Mhm.
10,200 looks pretty good. Obviously, Toronto down Pirtle here, so love Cat in tournaments. And then same thing with Brunson. I think he's in a good spot, great price. So I think Cat and Brunson both are firmly in play in tourneys here. Um, do slightly lean Cat, but I think both are in great spots. And then the rest of the team, I just kind of mix in these guys and like last pieces in, but I'm kind of primarily focusing on the studs here.
Yeah, I tend to agree, man. I don't mind mixing in some Brunson. I will say of Bridges Hart OG, I think I trust Hart the most right now, even though he's a little bit more expensive. But I'm with you, man. I think Cat's one of the best center plays on the slate. 10% owned, pretty much. I don't know. I could see coming in a little bit over that. Really, really good matchup. And yeah, what was the score of that Pelicans game? Because it's interesting. Cat only played 27 minutes, but Brunson played 39. So was it a
Mhm.
blowout and he just let Brunson keep going, or trying to figure out what that
I think
was?
it was a blowout. Yeah. Um, they
Um,
always blow them out and let them roll, dude. I don't get it. Tibbs is crazy.
Yeah, it's like he'll rest one guy a night. So I don't know. I still don't mind getting to these guys. Towns and Brunson look really good. Pretty great
Yeah.
matchup. Moving right along here, we got
We
the
got some
Clippers and oh,
we
what
got
you
some
say?
news real quick. Dylan Brooks is out tonight for Houston.
Ooh,
So that
okay.
makes it look even better in my opinion. If Dylan Brooks was even a factor.
Yeah, I mean Brooks has been playing a ton of minutes and he's actually taken up some usage lately. But let's touch on this quickly. I mean, yeah. So Jabari Smith's going to look even better. I
Yeah.
think. Let's see. Just pulling up some data on my other monitor here. Eamon Thompson's a guy who tends to get more minutes as long as a couple other rotational pieces are out. I know he's a guard, but he's someone you could probably mix in a little bit more now. Cam Whitmore has been back. Only played 14 minutes last game. If you're desperate for a punt, I don't think he's crazy. But yeah, more than anything, it makes me like Sengun, Smith, Green, Van Fleet more. We'll wait for the data to update, but that's where I'm at for now. I don't think I want to play Jay Sean Tate, but he did get 15 minutes last time. He's a fantasy point per minute player. If he were to start, I'd definitely get to him, but I don't know. Tricky situation, but yeah, man. LaMelo, like you said, even better now. He looks excellent. Already liked him, wasn't afraid of Brooks, but this matchup gets even more appealing. Anything on Houston you're going to be prioritizing now that you weren't already?
Mm, I already like Sengun, so probably will make me bump him a little bit more, but I don't. Yeah, I think you mentioned. I think the forwards here as well, Jabari and Amen, I think are going to look a lot better too.
Yeah. And I just ran a quick refresh. I don't think it's going to factor in that news, but some of the other stuff that's coming we should have now. Um, all right, let's go back to the Clippers and the Grizzlies. For the Clippers, still no Kawhi. Terrence Mann is out. No PJ Tucker. Zubac is questionable, so this one's kind of tricky. Norm Powell's been shooting the lights out. He's been outstanding. He's pretty popular on both sides. I get it. He makes things work as well at a thin forward position. I'm fine getting to him. I actually prefer him over Harden, but if Zoo is out, I think both these guys are going to look good. And then would it be Mo Bamba night if Zubac is out? What's your take on the Clippers right now? Zubac usually powers through whatever he's dealing with, but maybe tonight he's getting ready for Christmas or something. I don't know. But any lean on Zoo, and what's your take on the Clippers overall?
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be playing Mo Bamba, the song as well after Zubac gets ruled out. But no, I think Zubac probably plays here. You mentioned that he's a pretty tough guy, so we can start out with Powell here. I think he's probably my favorite play. 7K, pulling 20%. I don't think he's like a must by any means, especially with all these other good forwards now. But he's definitely solid. And then Zubac and Harden, both fine. Um, I'd much prefer different guards than Harden. I think obviously we covered
Yeah.
Hero, Lamelo. I prefer, but he's still in play. And then Zubac, it's tough. There's so many good centers up top, and then in the mid tier too. I think Zubac is just it's hard for me to get to him.
Yeah, I don't mind getting Mizzou. I do think he's a little bit overowned, but if I'm landing on him, I'm not complaining about it. To your point, Harden, I do think he's a little bit overpriced. He's really the point guard now, not taking a ton of shots. Fun stat on Powell: his last 7 games played, he's taken at least 7 threes in each of them. So he's really doing it all for them right now in terms of scoring. So I really, really do like Powell. I think he's probably good chalk. Don't mind the matchup either against Memphis. Don't think I'm going to get to Harden. I'm only playing a handful of lineups here. But I do think Zubac is kind of interesting because I don't know. Jackson, obviously, I don't know that he's going to be on Zoo directly. Edie isn't necessarily a bad matchup, but I don't know. There's better centers. I tend to agree. Over on the Memphis side, we got Bain is questionable, which is definitely interesting. No Jay Huff, Gigi Jackson still out. Marcus Smart and Vince Williams are out as well. They are getting John Morant back tonight. I think he looks fine. If Bain's out, he's going to look even better. Same with Jaren Jackson. I played a ton of Jackson the other night with Morant and Bain out, and he was in brutal foul trouble. Pretty much didn't play the entire game. Zach Edey, if he starts, I think he's okay as center value play. But yeah, I'll let you talk about Laravia. No one getting to him. I think it's pretty interesting though, especially if Bain is out.
Yeah, so big piece of news here with Bane, like you mentioned. I don't think it's like a crazy news. Like I think it primarily bumps guys like Laravia, Wells, even Luke Kennard for 3,500. So I think Bane probably plays, but I do want to save some spots because I think he could sit here. So yeah, like Laravia, like Wells. I think those are probably my favorite two if Bane sits. But after that, the rest of the team is just tough for me to get to. Um, yeah, so just mainly those two forwards in tournaments, I think. Edie's fine, but I just don't love the spot here for Zach Edie.
Yeah, the minutes have been tough for him. He hasn't been doing a ton when he is on the floor. I don't think it's crazy, but pretty low ownership. It's not the worst play. And yeah, Jaw, again, I think he's fine. There's just better guards that we're
Yeah.
getting to for the most part. But yeah, I like the Laravia shot. If he's coming off the bench or starting, it doesn't really matter if Bane's out. I think that's probably a good piece of value. We got a couple games left, only a handful of minutes, so let's just keep plugging away. A really big one here: Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Chicago Bulls. Starting with Milwaukee, so no Giannis, no Dame. They do have Middleton, who still seems to be somewhat limited. Um, but yeah, man, I don't know what to do other than just play all the Bobby Portis. He's probably going to be 100% of my lineups tonight. I like Ryan Rollins. He looks fine. Probably going to be in almost everything I have, but at the same time, I can't really trust him as much as like a Portis. But the minutes are there for him. Should play around 30. Middleton, we have for 25. I think that's a safe projection. Really good matchup here against the Bulls, even limited. I think he's at a price where you can play him. And then Gary Trent, I was hoping wasn't going to be this popular, but he's finally found his shot again. He's been playing really well. He's someone you can mix in. Jackson, Green, fine getting to them. Lopez is usually the pivot off of Portis, but tonight I wouldn't pivot off of Portis at all. If you want to play Lopez, fine, play Lopez. But at the same time, don't let it take you off Bobby Portis. I know always I'm like, yeah, don't play both. But with Giannis out, I think you could get away with it. I'm not getting too much Lopez. But yeah, man, I'm guessing you're on a lot of Portis. But how are you handling the rest of these Bucks?
Yes, sir. I love Portis once again. I clicked the lock button on him last night, and I put in Discord. He literally hit value in the first quarter in his first stint. So even at 6.3K here, it's probably still 1,000 too cheap. So I just think Portis is just a lock and load. And then also it's a revenge spot against his old team,
Oh yeah,
Chicago.
he hates Chicago.
He hates Chicago. So love Portis. And then you mentioned with Rollins, I still think he's an awesome play. 3,500. I got to a ton last night too when he came in super underowned. I think he's still really solid, but I'm interested to see where his ownership goes now with all this other value we have coming in here. So I think Rollins is still good, but just kind of want to see how he compares up to this other value. And then Chris Middleton. So we were kind of talking pre-stream. I think he's solid here. The big piece of news we saw is he's playing closer to 25, 26 minutes now, which is huge. Another 5 minutes is huge. So I like him a lot in tournaments too at 6K. They're going to need his shots and production here against Chicago. So those first three, Portis, Rollins, Middleton, I love here for Milwaukee.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And Middleton only played 23 minutes last game with Giannis and Dame out against Washington, had 41 DK points. So, again,
Yeah.
a couple extra minutes more than justifies playing him here. But yeah, like I said, I don't mind maybe pivoting to Trent a little bit to get different off of Rollins. But if that ownership starts to get closer, not a ton of leverage there. I do think Rollins is the better point per dollar play. Quickly, though, on the Chicago side, I don't know that there's much we need to talk about. Ball is questionable. Giddy's questionable. So if Giddy's out, that's going to boost Levine, Kobe White a little bit. But this is actually a really good matchup for them now. Obviously, with Giannis and Dame out, are you getting to many Bulls? Looks like the field isn't really at all.
The Bulls are, in my opinion, interesting here because we just get news that Giddy and Lonzo Ball are both out tonight. So that's pretty big. Um, Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think Zach Levine was like my favorite play here from the Bulls. Just guards here have typically done really well against Milwaukee. He's coming off a big game against Milwaukee about a month ago. So yeah, I think Zach Levine's probably my favorite, but maybe even Kobe White now in tournaments with these guards out here.
Yeah, I don't mind Kobe and Ao.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good. I know his prices come up, but he's a guy who tends to really produce with one of these other guys out. If we see Buzella slide in the starting lineup, I know you've been a fan of his. I haven't been getting to it much, but he's someone probably worth mentioning. Horton Tucker maybe sees a few minutes tonight. I don't know. I can't trust him, but yeah, I'm with you, man. I think White looks pretty good. Levine looks really good. I like Ao a lot, and yeah, Vooch is fine. There's just so many centers on the slate. I don't know that we can get to him. But yeah, we got to keep plugging away here. You're in Discord doing double duty tonight. We got two more games to get through. Let's do the Wizards and the Thunder here. This is a game with a massive, massive spread. Wizards are without Koulibaly, without Kuzma, and Sarr is questionable. Um, yeah, this game has blowout written all over it. Over on the OKC side, no Chet Holmgren. I think that's it. So OKC's healthy here against this pieces of this Wizards team. Excuse me, just pulling up the data here. But yeah, looking at OF index, I mean, SGA looks good. You just got to worry about the blowout because you're paying a premium for them. Hartenstein, Williams, they look good. Again, same thoughts as SGA. There's some risk in the blowout. But yeah, man, anything from this game you're getting too aggressively. Obviously, a great matchup for OKC. If Washington can somehow keep it close, you're going to want pieces here. On the Washington side, I don't know. I'm looking for those hybrid plays, like maybe a Kaishan George, but at the same time, he's been pretty bad even with the extra opportunities. I just don't know that I can trust anything. Justin Champagny would be someone, but his price is up to 5,500 now. It's just kind of too high for me, so I don't know that I get too much from this one. How about you?
Yeah, so this game is it's just when I first looked at it, I was like, man, Hardenstein just an amazing spot here. But after I looked at it, harder, it's just I don't see any way this game doesn't blow out. Just OKC is just 10 times better than Washington here. I mean, the only real way I think Washington even keeps us close is through Jordan Poole. So I don't know, man. I think SGA is great. I just do worry about that potential ceiling performance on this slate with this huge spread. So I think SGA, J Dub, and Hardenstein are all in great spots. All would be great plays on any other slate. I just think on this slate, we need to probably at least try to maximize our upside with close games. So I think they're all fine, but I do think they're probably a little bit all slightly overowned due to potential blowout here with these two teams.
Yep, I tend to agree, man. I was trying to pull up some data on some of the bench guys, but yeah, I don't think it's necessary. Again, their upside's tremendous. I mean, it's a very soft matchup defensively. I don't want to talk anyone off playing these OKC guys, but at the same time, they might only be playing two and a half, 3 quarters. So keep that in mind. This is not Thibs. They are willing to kind of pull their guys off the floor. Whew, we got one more game, man. I will check out chat one last time, guys, before we do our dummy build. But we got Portland at Dallas. Portland going to be without Dybul, and Banton and Williams are questionable. So another team that's actually healthier than they've been most of the season. Over on the Dallas side, the big news is Luka. He's questionable. If he's in, probably looks pretty good, but you're paying a premium. If he's out, obviously we can look back to Kyrie. PJ Washington would probably be a little bit interesting. Quentin Grimes, fine, but again, nothing here really standing out unless Luke is out. Anything from this game, just in general, you're getting to sorting by value. I mean, Lively looks okay. Um, I don't know, ain't a little bit overpriced for what he's been doing lately. But yeah, kind of a tough spot. It is the last game on the slate.
Yeah, so this game probably comes in pretty under-owned, even though it's got a 230 total. So I think in GPP it probably has some appeal. It's so tough to get these guys. Just strictly from the fact that we have so many good plays here on the slate. So I think probably for me, you mentioned it. I think Luca, if he plays, probably would be the target here. Um, and if he doesn't play, then maybe you could go to guys like PJ, Kyrie. But I don't know, man. It's just very tough to rely on getting to a ton of Luca when we have so many other good plays today. So I think for me, it's probably a stay away for the most part.
Yeah, I do want to say this. If you could set yourself up like going into the 8 o'clock Eastern window where you have Luca in lineups, but you have something you can upgrade if Luca's out, you take Luca, make him Kyrie, upgrade that other spot. Maybe it's Norm Powell to, I don't know. I want to say Harden, but I want to play Powell over Harden. But just kind of set up a 2 for 2 for yourself so you're kind of good either way. But that's kind of the way you have to handle that tonight. I think if Luca's in, he's good. I think if he's out, obviously you want to get to some Kyrie. But yeah, tricky spot because we're probably not going to have that news when the slate locks. Nice, man. We made it through. Let's take a quick look at chat and then we'll do our dummy build. Sam Merrill in, Dwayne Wade out. I'm not going to pull all the stuff up on the comments up on the screen, guys. I would love to, but we're pressed on time. We got Jayhawk on double duty today. So, and playing at home in Atlanta. Lots of friends and family should be there for him. Hey, he's cheap, affordable, good matchup. I don't mind it. Brunson or Irving. That's Brunson for me, unless Luke is out. I'm guessing you're the same, Jayhawk.
Yeah, I would probably go Brunson here.
Nice. Yeah, shouts out Tori in here. It was fouls for Cat. That's why he missed some time, even though that game was close. Lonzo Giddy out. We talked about that. Top play each position on FanDuel. Um, I mean, it's the Bucks. It's definitely the Bucks, and I think we like Lamelo Ball a lot. I'll throw Sengun in there as well. Do we like Dort? I don't know, man. I think there's better plays in that range tonight. He is upside, but at the same time, again, if we're not playing SGA because we're worried about blowout, it's kind of tough to want to play Dort. But let's get into the dummy build quickly, man, and I'll save us some time. We'll start putting in these Bucks. We like Rollins for sure. We
Yep.
like Portis
Yep.
for sure. And then I know we are both on Lamelo and a Sangoon stack tonight. It sounds like.
We can go Lamelo Sengun. I like that a lot.
Okay,
It's
cool.
either that or Embiid for me at center.
Oh yeah, I mean I do like Embiid. That is tough. I mean for seven, for 600 more, it's tough not to go Embiid. We'll
We
go.
let's spell out the rest. We can see if we can.
Yeah, we'll leave center for last.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
about that? Okay.
perfect.
Small forward. I just put in Hero. I
Yep.
do like Drew Smith for value.
hmm
Probably have to move some stuff around though.
It's a lot of good point guard plays today. We have a lot of really good point guard plays.
Yeah, I
So
mean, we almost want to use a point guard in utility. I don't mind doing that. I mean, if it's not Drew Smith, it could be someone else cheap. But
yeah,
again, we're rapid fire here. We got Struce out. I mean, I do like Jabari Smith. I'm trying to think of
uh,
what other. Go ahead.
Koulibaly is out for Washington. Kaishan George is 3,300. I don't know if we like love that, but he's super cheap and the model loves him. So
Yeah, I just clicked the wrong George. The model always loved this guy, and he always comes in with his puffy hair and sucks. I can't do it, man. I can't.
okay,
If
okay,
if
I'm
he
just gonna
goes off
mention it.
tonight, I know he's capable. Maybe he does. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and play Kaishan
Okay,
George.
okay, okay.
Um, the model likes it though, so maybe there's merit. I mean, Norm Powell was someone I think we both wanted to be on. I don't know that we have the salary for it necessarily. Eh. So we're struggling to pay up for Embiid. It looks like. Let's see here.
Should we go back down to Sengun?
Yeah, we can't fit Embiid. If we go
Okay, let's go Sengun.
Sengun, we're still a little off.
Okay.
We could get off Powell because I do think Hero is kind of a priority.
Small
Um,
forward. I'm trying to think. Middle. Do we have Middleton in there already?
oh, Middleton,
Yeah,
duh,
Middleton. Yeah, I love Middleton.
duh. Nice one. That's an oversight on my part. Can we find a $3,900 forward? Is the question.
It would have been. It would have been. What's his face?
I'm just gonna
Wells.
on Kaishan George right now, right?
Okay, perfect. Oh me.
Who'd you say?
Oh, I was gonna say it would have been Wells, but we did get news that Bane's gonna play. So
Well, here's the thing. I know I fought against it, but if the model likes Kaishan, we go Kaishan, then we're left with 48 at utility. I think I'd be trying to find ways to pivot a little bit off of this, but for the sake of time, I don't think it's the craziest play. And again, Kaishan George is the type of guy who probably plays regardless of how that game plays out. Um, I don't know, Zach Edey, sure, why not? This is not a bad lineup. Again, paying up for Sangoon and Ball makes it kind of tough. I do think you have to make a choice between Hero and Powell, but so much to like tonight on tonight's slate. Any last thoughts, Jayhawk, before we get out of here? I would love to get to all these comments, guys. Cam Johnson's fine, not a priority, a little bit overpriced. Amon or Mikael Bridges. I think Bridges is safer. Amon has the higher ceiling. I'd probably just go with Amon in tournaments. Prince, tough to do top play at each position. We'll just look at FanDuel ownership really quickly. It's Rollins, Portis, Middleton, Powell. Um, yeah, I mean, just sort by ownership. Just pause the video, take a look there. I want to get out of here so Jayhawk has some time to get into Discord. Thanks again, everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. Jayhawk, any last words before we get out of here?
Let LaMelo cook tonight. That's the last words.
Oh yeah,
good,
let's
good
do.
luck.
Man, let's go, Lamelo. Let's have a big one. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
See you guys later. Peace.